Hi, welcome to Integrated Preparedness. I'm Steve Smith. Today I want to talk about the nature of attacks and how that applies to preparedness. First, I'll answer a couple of questions. I had somebody uh, tell me that they liked my plaid shirts. I, I wear these. I'm not all that tactical. But anyway, these aren't really called plaids. This is called a tartan. And for anybody who's interested, all of the Scottish clans and septs and the Irish also had tartans, and it's the design that many people call plaid now that was specific to that clan or that sept, which is like a subclan. This is as close that I've seen to a production shirt to the Smith sept. And this is about 25 years old, so it's one of my favorite shirts. Anyway, thank you for. Oh, and plaid. Plaid is a Scots Gaelic word for blanket. And if you're interested in more of that, you can go online and look up the great kilt, which is a large blanket that they folded in certain ways when they went out hunting and such. And it's very interesting. So if you're interested in that, look that up. So thank you for complimenting that. The other thing is, well, I'll hold that off for a little bit. Today I wanted to talk about the nature of attacks and how that applies to being prepared. I was talking with a very good friend of mine not long ago about, and he's a supremely intelligent person, retired lawyer, a former prosecutor, as a matter of fact. So he's well versed in the bad things that people can do to each other. He knows the world, and we were he brought up something about some scenes in my first book, which is The Reversion. I noticed it a couple times before when I've held up the books. I don't get them in the frame of the camera. That's because I'm not a professional, but hope you can see it. So he brought up a couple of situations in The Reversion, and he had questions about how quickly the main characters, the positive main characters, I hate to use the word hero, went to violence in order to handle a situation. And so we had quite a discussion on that. I explained some of it, quite a bit of the process, the thinking process in the book itself. And really, this could be one of the lessons from Stonemont series, but I'm sliding it in here. This is about the second lesson from Stonemont. Even though I went into a little bit of the thought processes behind it in the book, explaining the scene and the situation, I explained it in more depth and my reasoning. And as we talked, he came to see my point of view, and he made a very interesting statement. He thought, and he's a very thoughtful guy, and he finally said if he thought that he had one, I won't call it a weak point, but if there was something that he came up a little bit short on, it was that he might not see the severity of a situation in time. Now, once he understands the situation, there's no one that I would think would be better in handling a situation. But that is important, and that was an important statement on his part. And I think a lot of people, well, I know a lot of people are like this, because most people don't live lives where violence is a natural part of their day. Those of us who do or did, it becomes ingrained in us, and we see life much differently than those people who live a more normal life. But for the normal person, they do not recognize a dangerous situation or a threat, or if they recognize the threat, sometimes they don't realize the severity of it in time. And then when it happens, they're surprised, like I talked about in the last video about the three enemies of confusion, fear, and the attacker. They're surprised and may not be able to fight themselves out of the hole that they started out in because they weren't ready to respond immediately. When I taught martial arts, I explained to my students and people who came to different seminars that I gave that attacks happen suddenly, but very rarely without warning. And what I mean by that is that although it may seem sudden to the person, there were usually many warnings, many clues that were leading up to it that the person just missed. Okay, in an attack situation, they didn't notice, or they didn't put the proper importance on the three guys that were walking towards them on the other side of the street, and crossed the street in front of them, or followed them into a parking garage, or they didn't see the guy frown at them when they smiled at the guy's girlfriend in the bar, and all of a sudden they're telling the police, they just came out of nowhere, and just for no reason started wailing on me. Well, no. Most attacks don't happen for no reason, except for these stupid knockout games they got nowadays. But even that's a reason. So if somebody is attacked, it's because somebody else wants what they have. It could be their property, it could be their body, it could be their dignity, it could be retaliation for a real or an imagined insult, whatever. It could be for any reason. But there are almost always some clues that if you're tuned in, you're going to see them. And the reason that they don't is because they're not tuned in. They're wrapped up in their own world, and they don't see what's going on around them. If you want to act all tactical, you can call it situational awareness. When I was a kid, they just told us to be aware of our surroundings. Watch what's going on, because the world can be dangerous. It's full of good people, but there are some bad folks out there mixed in with them, and those are the ones you watch out for. And not to do so is just foolish. Anyway, it's kind of the same thing with preparedness. What are the kinds of threats that we face with when we're preparing? Well, it could be those things, natural disasters, whatever, societal collapse, EMP, whatever. There are warnings for those, clues that we can see as they come up. If a hurricane's headed your way, well, they're telling you about it, right? They're telling you about it for days, because nowadays the news crews and the weather channels, they just love talking about that stuff. And you're going to hear about this stuff from the time that the first cloud forms off of Western Africa and starts moving our way. And there's, possible hurricane. Well, you're going to be hearing about this. So it's not surprise to all these people. You go down and try to make your way out of Hilton Head, when a hurricane warning is coming, and see the traffic that's jammed up. Well, if a hurricane was coming towards me, I'd have plenty of time to load the car and go visit some relatives inland until it was over with. If a tornado's coming, those come up a lot quicker, but you see a warning, those big dark clouds out there, something could happen, and so you start paying attention. Earthquakes, your warning there is that you live in a place where earthquakes have happened. An EMP, they've warned us that it's going to happen, so we know it, right? So if we refuse to recognize and accept those warnings and the sure threat of those potential threats, it's on us. It's on you if you don't. The warnings are always there. Either they are situational, like hurricanes or whatever, or they are long-term. You know that you are going to need to be prepared. And if you need to be prepared, when's the time to start? Well, long time ago, right? Is the best time. The second time is now. So think about these things and be responsible, as I say. Be responsible for your own preparedness. No one is responsible for you except you. And when a threat occurs, it's going to happen suddenly, but rarely without warning. So your warning is now, your warning was before, and the steps that you take to be able to deal with that, to mitigate or run from it, or however you want to do it, begins with your preparations. Okay? Prepare now, prepare for everything. Next time, we are going to be talking about, I think, we may be starting the lessons from Stonemont. There's a couple of other things I want to throw in here before we do that, because I'm trying to do them in some kind of order, even though it's a brand new channel. And we don't have that many subscribers or views or anything. So hey, if you like it and you tell your friends, thank you very much. But again, my main purpose is to answer questions from those people who have read my books and send in their questions. So I hope that that's helpful. But I do want to keep them in some kind of order so that, you know, when we have a whole lot of them, it'll make some sense if people come through them chronologically. So I think that'll do it for today. We'll get back to you in the next couple of days. I have a lot of things go on. Oh, another question. I'm sorry. Another question before I sign off here. Yeah, there are a couple of other things coming along. The Renewal, which is the third book in the Stonemont series, will be out. I at first thought it was going to be out the 1st of July, but it might be out sooner. I'm not sure. Anyway, sometime between now and the 1st of July. There's a companion book coming out, 2 companion books probably coming out within the next 9 to 12 months. One is going to be a Lessons from Stonemont, and another is simply going to be Integrative Preparedness. So I have a lot of things that I'm working on all the time. So if I don't get back and answer people's questions as quickly as you'd like me to, I do apologize. I'm enjoying this. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for being here. Let your friends know if you find this interesting, and I hope that you found this helpful. So realize, keep that in mind, attacks happen quickly, but they don't happen without warning. Be warned and be prepared. Thanks for being here today. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.